Back into the early access we go with another first-person shooter called Second Extinction. Now don't be afraid, as this is not a roguelike or anything like that, although it does have a progression system. In a nutshell, Second Extinction is a co-op shooter where dinosaurs have somehow come back and taken over Earth. Your goal is to accomplish various missions to eventually retake Earth, which is reflected in a metagame. A pretty crazy setup to buy, but can this game deliver? So when you start up the game, it throws you right into the menu, but I would recommend you start out with the tutorial, as I often do with any game. The tutorial basically will teach you the controls for your character that you use and how to do your abilities. This is where you'll learn that this is a bit of a hero shooter, since each character has different abilities and weapons to equip. And thankfully, kind of a side note, but thankfully the leveling up when you level up your characters is universal, and it's not tied to each character, which is much appreciated and definitely cuts down on the tedium grinding that a lot of these games can have. And I just gotta say, the game looks freaking fantastic, especially for an early access title, although the weather effects, they need to be toned down, because I legitimately can't see in certain instances, just with all the snow and rain that's happened, like in some during certain situations. It's legit impossible to see. Looks great, but nah, I can't see it though. And on top of the graphics, the shooting and the movement feel great. The dinos are very satisfying to take down, especially the bigger ones, and I think this is all Unreal Engine 4, so that's probably why. It's just natural for shooting games. And many of the weapons have incredible punch, especially the sniper rifle. That was my go-to. And even the standard like handgun would feel really great. However, there are some weapons that I felt were just lacking and didn't have the stopping power I thought they would. The example is the assault rifle. You just will spray and waste bullets, especially on solo. So as I mentioned before, each character has abilities. They'll have one passive and also 2 active skills to use. Certain characters, as I said before, can equip unique weapons to them. One of the characters, Rosie, can carry a machine gun. My personal favorite was the sniper named Jurgen. Basically, he was an old man, and he had the ability to go invisible and place satchel charges. Honestly, he was my go-to and my favorite. I loved using him, especially in solo runs. All are incredibly useful, all the characters, but some are definitely more powerful than others. Rosie, as I mentioned before, can basically able to regenerate her health and can basically be a walking tank, making solo pretty easy. So there definitely are some balancing issues, but that's to be expected for an early access game. So most of the game will take place either on a mission or an expedition. Missions basically have primary objectives, while expeditions are mainly free roam with some side objectives that you can accomplish. Honestly, spend more time with the expeditions than the missions, mainly because the expeditions were just a lot of fun, running around and exploring the place, seeing what's out there, seeing the different dinosaurs. It was just fun to do. So these optionals and side objectives also appear on missions as well, and they can range from collecting eggs, trapping dinos, etc, etc. Some of these definitely give me a Monster Hunter feel, which I definitely like, and that's all I gotta say. It's just awesome. Monster Hunter with guns, even though it's not exactly that, but it's kind of close. So the game is definitely challenging, depending on the character that you have chosen, and whether or not you're going solo. And going solo is possible for the easier difficulties. I honestly took down a freaking T-Rex on normal difficulty, and I felt like a freaking badass, using the sniper. Was it hard? Yeah, it was challenging. I did it though, but again, I'm a fairly skilled gamer. I like to say I have some experience gaming. Know what I mean? So depending on your skill level, you can do it, but I wouldn't really recommend it for anyone. Definitely, I would say going into this game, try to find a partner or two or team up with randoms. I'll talk about that later, but let's move on. Whether or not you complete a mission or an expedition, you will get a summary screen, and this is where you can see the results of your actions on the map via the war effort, as well as the amount of experience that you got from leveling up. and also some items that you found that you can use to upgrade your weapons, etc., etc. So when you do level up, it unlocks new weapons and equipment that you can use on the battlefield. So there definitely is a reason to level up. So when it comes to the story and this premise, there's not really much of it. But the game places emphasis on the metagame, as I mentioned before. As you do well in certain areas of the map, you'll lower the threat level, and it's the big selling point of the game, but I honestly haven't seen much movement with it. Maybe the problem is it just needs a bigger community to see a more dynamic difference. I'm not so sure. So once you reach level 5, you can unlock contracts, and these are basically tasks that you can take for various rewards. And some of these tasks include completing optional objectives, killing with a certain weapon without reloading, etc., etc. Rewards are usually worth it for the most part, and the tasks definitely add more replay value to the game, which is appreciated. So you can use the research points that you gain from the battle and the parts to upgrade your weapons. And there's an interesting system here, because you can't just like linearly upgrade your weapons like what you think. Like you can't just 100% your weapons, get the best weapons ever, you know, all that. You only have a limited amount of tokens to fill on the slots that you unlock. So you can't just 100% everything and fill every single slot with the limited tokens. So I definitely like this style, as it forces you to specialize and to really know what kind of build and plan out your build to know what kind of build you want to eventually go for. So the amount of glitches I had was pretty small, which is pretty good for an early access game, especially of this graphical fidelity. But the game definitely does need to improve on certain things, specifically enemy variety the most, because you'll see the same raptors over and over again, with some rare appearances of like Stegosaurus types, but again, that only appears in certain sections of the map. I did mention the T-Rex before that I took down, which it was pretty cool. Again, did it solo, you know, gotta pat myself on the back for that. But there's honestly so much potential, you know. Add like maybe a Spinosaurus, you know, from add a Spinosaurus, or like some sort of, you know, flying enemies like some, you know, pterodactyls, and mix it up that way. I don't know, there's so many freaking dinosaurs that's existed through history. There's definitely is a lot to play with, so we'll see what the developers do. But looking at the roadmap, I don't really see any new enemy types really coming down the pike, but hopefully they can add some. So to test the multiplayer, I was playing with some random people for this review, and I was doing pretty well, but then I started to have some connection issues for no reason. Everything was good on my end, and I do have pretty good internet, so I wasn't sure what it was there. I didn't experience it again, but just know that it can happen and it can ruin your progress, so it is unfortunate. So overall, I definitely recommend it. It's great co-op fun. Playing solo is doable. I definitely had fun solo, especially with the exhibitions and just, you know, running around just exploring the world. But honestly, it's it could be a little too challenging for some doing solo, and it may not be as fun, and definitely is not going to be as enjoyable as it will with other people. But I am looking forward to the future updates and more content down the line. Hopefully we can get more enemy types, maybe a couple of different maps to kind of vary things up a little bit. Just more variety for more long-term play. We'll see what happens. Either way, thank you guys for watching as always, and this is Powerhouse, signing off.